Immigrants have come to America from around the world for many reasons.
Some fled famine and poverty, others sought religious freedom, and some came for the possibility of a better life.
My name is Henry Kissinger, and I came to America in 1938.
Journey to America with Newt and Callista Gingrich highlights the stories of immigrants and their impact on American life. The documentary was produced by former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Newt Gingrich, and his wife.
And Speaker Gingrich joins us now. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
I'm delighted to be with you, and I appreciated you opening with that clip from Journey to America.
Yeah, so this is a book, and it's a special on PBS. And interesting that we're talking about immigration so much as President Donald Trump starts his new term. Immigration's such a topic of discussion. What are your thoughts on his proposals about immigration as you have this special about immigration?
Well, look, I'm very strongly opposed to illegal immigration because it starts by breaking the law, and it puts people outside our constitutional system. But at the same time, Callista and I are very committed to legal immigration. We recognize that legal immigrants have made America a better place. And, you know, you're looking at a picture of Melania Trump, who came from Europe. President Trump's mother came from Scotland. Callista's grandmother came through Ellis Island in 1907 from Poland. And you can actually go to the museum at Ellis Island and see her name and where she came in and what they wrote about her. So we just believe that it's very important to have a balanced approach. No to illegal immigration, yes to legal immigration. And I think that the reaction we've had so far to Journey to America, which PBS has shown twice and which is available streaming on pbs.org and the PBS app, we think it's an important part of the contribution to have a balanced conversation about.
I think the problem is that the system seems broken to allow legal immigration, a problem that I think you would agree has been caused by both parties, and the economy can't grow without more people. So why is it so hard for both parties to fix this problem?
Well, I think, first of all, there's some profound differences. I think we need to streamline the ability to apply and become an American citizen within the law. I think it's too cumbersome, takes too long, is too expensive. We actually are slowing down our own ability to attract really smart people from all over the world who will create jobs, increase economic growth, and add to our diversity as an American nation. So that on the one hand, I think we do have to overhaul the legal system to make sure that it works better and is more modern. On the other hand, what President Biden did in just opening the southern border was a disaster. I mean, millions and millions of people came in with no knowledge of who they were. You go back and look at Ellis Island when we had a huge wave of immigration. They all came through. It was orderly. We knew who they were. They had to go through a health check. They had to indicate they're willing to work. This was a country built on work, not built on welfare. And so I think there's some very profound changes that have to be made. I'm for totally controlling the southern border. I'm for the immediate deportation of criminals. I'm very much for the act which just passed the House and is about to pass the Senate, which provides for holding anybody who commits a crime and is not documented until the federal government can intervene and pick them up. I think you'll find that those initial steps make this country much safer and send a signal that if you're a crook or a criminal or belong to a gang, don't come to America.
Do you think both parties can work together again? We remember back in the Reagan and Tip O'Neill days, they seemed to work together. Back in '94, you had the contract with America. 95 seems to be a time when things got a little more politicized. Do you think it was that era when you were there that things became polarizing between the two sides, or are things on a better track now?
Well, look, I think when we were there with the first House Republican majority in 40 years, we balanced the budget for 4 consecutive years for the only time in the last century. We passed welfare reform, getting people to go to work and raising children from poverty. We invented Medicare Advantage, which millions have taken advantage of. We reformed the Food and Drug Administration. We reformed telecommunications to make the modern internet possible. All those things we did with a Democratic president. But the key was the American people, something I learned from Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan, that if the American people are with you, the Congress eventually has to go along. It's a point I hope that President Trump remembers, that if he has a tax cut bill and he has an ability to increase energy, reduce costs, create jobs, and make life more affordable, he has to go to the country and get the country to decide to pressure the Congress. Doesn't do him any good to negotiate with Hakeem Jeffries and with Senator Schumer, because they're going to represent the hardline Democratic position. But a lot of Democrats, it just happened with the Laken Riley bill, which provides for people who are picked up for minor crimes being held if they're not documented until the federal government can pick them up. That's a big change. And we had 46 Democrats in the House vote for it. And we're going to have a substantial number of Democrats in the Senate vote for it. So it's going to be a bipartisan bill, which I think is good.
The film is Journey to America with Newt and Callista Gingrich. It's streaming on PBS, and you can follow Speaker Gingrich on social media. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.